You know, it's been very interesting going through the book of Philippians because the Apostle Paul deals with some things that we don't necessarily like to talk about. I mean, he dealt with anxiety, and I'm sure none of us have ever dealt with worry or anxiety. And now he's going to be dealing with contentment. And I'm sure we've always been, or you've always been, I've always been content in every circumstance that I've been through. We know that's not the case. But I like how Paul says it in Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 through 13. And he said this, "I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now at length you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned," notice that, "for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low. I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him, that is Christ, who strengthens me." And so we can be encouraged by the Apostle Paul. He wasn't necessarily always a content man, but he learned contentment. Christ gave him the empowerment to be content. And he was content whether he had a lot of resources or whether he had just the meager means to live on. And we can be content in any circumstance as long as Christ is there with us, which we're encouraged with Hebrews chapter 13 and verses 5 and 6. I love these words from the writer of Hebrews. He says this, "Keep your life free from the love of money, and be content with what you have. For he, that is God, has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you." So we can confidently say, "The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me?" And so the writer of Hebrews says there, do not live with a fondness of money. And why is that? Because that is idolatry. When we love money above God, that is idolatry. But also as well, we forget God's presence. And he says there, back in verse 5, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Literally in the Greek, it's ou, me, ure, ume. What does that mean? It means this: his presence will never, no, not ever leave us forever. God will never leave us. Therefore, he'll help us no matter what our circumstances are. Therefore, I want to encourage you, no matter what you're going through, realize God is there in the midst with you, and he will not abandon you. Acknowledge his presence. Acknowledge he is there. And back in Philippians 4, pray for his strength. And know as well as Jesus taught, he knows us so very well. Actually, he knows, the number of hairs on our head. He knows every single minute detail about us, Psalm 139. And so I want to encourage you, you are of great worth to God. So seek him first, and all these things will be added unto you. Well, lastly, here in 1 Timothy chapter 6, the Apostle Paul said here in 1 Timothy 6, in verses 6 through 10, says this, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. No one has ever had a hearse followed by all of their worldly goods." You can't bring it with you. "But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It's through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. And so we learn here that if we develop contentment, if we are learning contentment, if we're growing in that contentment, that'll help us to be more like Jesus. That'll help us to be more sanctified, more holy like Jesus. And we do that as we rely on God for our needs and as we forsake our greeds. Remember this, though. Money is neutral. Having lots of money is actually not sinful. As I said before, it's loving money. It's loving a little bit more. It doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor. Both can have a love of money, which is idolatry. And it's like a trap as well. It's like drinking salt water, thinking you're going to get satiated from that you're going to quench your thirst from drinking salt water. When you drink salt water, you just want more and more and more and more. But as Jesus said, lay up treasure rather in heaven. Because we pray, as he prayed in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Let's depend on the Lord for what we need and be content with the situations and with the economic means that we have. Well, thank you for joining me.